as she waves to the multitudes that watch us here at 360 Performance every Friday, 11 o'clock on KUHS Denver. As we start every Friday, we started with a little bit of notes and points of interest on sports, and lately we've had none. So what are you going to do about that, right? Well, we're going to try to amp it up. And the NBA has started to say that they're going to come back. The NHL said they're going to come back. But I'm going to start off with golf, because there's a golf tournament this weekend. The Charles Schwab Challenge is this weekend. They've already had one round. That was yesterday. And, I mean, some impressive scores considering, well, I guess I shouldn't consider the golfers being off. They may have gone out on their own, you know. They socially distanced by yourself, carry your own clubs kind of thing, and played some golf, maybe hit the driving range, because the scores are in the 60s. In the 60s. And yet, regrettably, no Tiger Woods. He's not in this one. But we have Justin Rose and Harold Varner III are at the top of the leaderboard with, they both shot 63s yesterday. It's interesting to note that the golfers are the first ones to jump, because I think they're the most bored sitting at home, not having their clubs in their hands, as would be other field-related sports like soccer, which is coming out. They're going to have some great tournaments this weekend, on both tomorrow and on Sunday. La Liga is going to have some broadcasts. I'll go through those in just a second. But one of the notables that, because there's not going to be any fans on the course for the golf, so they put a microphone on Ricky Fowler. And I think if you follow golf at all, you know that Ricky Fowler is somebody who's got, he's got a gift for gab. He likes a little quip here and there, gets a little sarcastic. So you can expect some little drops of notes and some pitches at his opponents, yelling at them from 6 feet away about how good or bad their game is. So we got that going on. One of my favorites, though, is struggling, and I hope he's going to come back, is Jordan Spieth. The youngsters had some difficulty last season when we had a full season. He was he's trying to find himself, right? Well, I hope he does. He's sitting 7th right now, so that means he's probably in maybe the high 60s. I didn't look up the score, but I'm anxious to see what he's going to do. And then here's where really it's going to just huge intersection of sports in October and November, and it's going to start in July, where the NHL and the NBA are both going to take off. Can you imagine having a Stanley Cup tournament playoff in August? Because that's what we're looking at. And the NBA is going to be in Florida in July, figuring out who's going to wind up in the NBA Finals, which could also be at the same time the NHL is getting ready for their Stanley Cup playoff, or it's already done and the NHL is starting their next season in November. My head is spinning just thinking about it. But I think it's going to be fun. And for the creative people out there that look at those kind of things, identify July 10th as that jump date for both the NHL and the NBA to go into their respective corners and starting their new seasons. So we'll see what happens. But that being said, as a fan, there's lots of things going on. And for those of you who like people who turn left permanently and go in circles, NASCAR is running this weekend as well. They were one of the first sports to really get it rocking, was NASCAR. So with that being said, that's my end of my intro of sports and what's going on in sports. You're listening to 360 Performance every Friday at 11 o'clock. And before I introduce Kendra, I want to make sure I make note of some things that are going on around our community, as well as probably around Portland and Seattle and Chicago and New York and many towns like it, where we have our food banks. Well, we have a food bank here, and I want to make sure I give a prop out there to the food bank, Integrated Family Community Food Bank. If you want and need some food supplies, and as well other kinds of personal care products, supplies like diapers and formula, those kind of things, call them and get an appointment so you can get in line and get prioritized what you need so they can have that packed for you. Just call 303-789-0501 for the food bank and make sure that you get what you need to take care of your needs. All right, so good morning, Kendra Freeman. Kendra Freeman, VP. She is the cook. She's the recipe person. She's the formulator of the CBD products for Mendy. Mendy out in Portland. And they really got my attention because they focused on sports performance, and elite performance needs to, take care of their boo-boos and make sure that their bruises and all that soreness that you get from competing at the highest levels are taken care of. Now, mine may be oversimplifying, but that's why Kendra's here. Kendra Friedman, welcome, co-founder of Mendy.
Thank you, Lowell. This is great. Thanks for having me.
I have to ask you this. The artwork behind you, where did you get that? I like that.
That was actually made at an art show, supporting a friend, and they did a medium with spray paint. So it's kind of like street art.
That's awesome.
Yeah, made by a Latinx person that really needed to fund something for them medically. And so they had a huge art show, and I fell in love. It's an anatomical heart.
Yeah, I was going to say that my interpretation of art, that would be a heart and the number of components there. And I like the colors. It's fighting and your and I like it. The colors are great.
Yeah.
So support your local artists, I guess, is the point. Kendra, you and your co-founder got together how many years ago to start Mendy?
Wow, I think it's been about 2.5 years now. We originally, we just came there because of the soccer world. I think people are pretty familiar with Megan and Rachel Rapinoe. They are two twins.
Who are they again?
Yeah, only one of the largest sports athletes in the world. But Rachel is in Portland, Oregon, and so I met up with her through the soccer community. And she kind of, I don't know if you want me to go in and tell you the story about how Mendy was created, but she basically was telling me kind of some of the dark secrets about the professional world with sports and how there is a huge opioid crisis and a lot of over-the-counter drugs that are prescribed that really are not recovery aids. And I, instantly was like, wow, these people need to try cannabis. And CBD specifically is going to be the wave of the future. This is like 3 years ago, I guess. And so Rachel and I came together. She has a sport science background. She actually has a master's in health physiology. Mm-hmm. And so we got together and we were like, you know what, we need to create a product for athletes to help them recover. And so that's what we did. So we got together and we were like, how can we make this work? And it really went fast. It was, we joined a business accelerator program, and then that kind of just like shot us to the moon.
Well, and we also want to point out, Kendra, that your products are THC free, and I say it that emphatically because there are CBD products that can be sold over the internet that have at or less than 0.03% THC. And in a minute, I want to ask you a little bit about the kind of the formulation, your philosophy and ideology that goes into the actual manufacturing and production of your products. But I want to ask you, why do high performance athletes find the CBD products, and in particular your CBD products, so they prefer them? They're drawn to them.
Yes. Well, I can tell you numerous reasons why. First of all, let's talk about, Megan, our star athlete ambassador and part of our team. She originally said, in a quote, she said, you really train about 3 hours a day, but the rest of the time you're spending recovering.
Yeah. And
I think that, that is the difference of separating the elite athletes from, just a regular athlete. But what that statement, we really dove into, because we were like, yeah, a lot of people aren't really talking about recovery. You could be an excellent athlete, but what's going to differentiate you is your recovery. CBD has great methods to help you with recovery, and that extends to every kind of athlete. I don't care if you're a golfer, a soccer player, hockey player. every kind of athlete needs to recover. And they have injuries. They put their bodies through a meat grinder. Day in and day out, they're working as hard as possible. So that's really what we came to market with, was an idea about recovery. And that ties into sports performance, because if you don't recover properly, you are not going to perform properly. So that's kind of how it ties in with athletes.
I like the way you said that, because I talked to a colleague yesterday about mind-body connection, and more importantly, the disconnects. And many times the disconnects come and are created in that recovery process because they've got the wrong resources, or they don't have any resources that really direct specifically the issues that they're trying to manage. I've had too many athletes come to me after I thought they recovered, and they were still in discomfort or even pain for that matter. And they just didn't have the right resources. So I'm going to ask you a qualifying question about that. You can take CBD as an external, as a rub, as a lotion, but you can also take it internally through tinctures and additions to drinks and what have you. Which ones have the greater uptake, and are there specific ones you should take a certain way to get to a certain problem or issue in the recovery?
Yeah, I think really with CBD, it's about getting it consistently in your system. So both ingestibles and also topically. So the difference would be a tincture you actually put under your tongue, and it's called a sublingual delivery method. And what that does is it goes directly to your bloodstream. That is the fastest, the quickest way. It doesn't go through your liver, which would break it down. Your digestive process really breaks down a lot of items, which is great. That's what it's built to do. But that also includes CBD. So when you eat edibles, or if you eat something like that, you're effective amount of CBD that you could through a sublingual. So, and then a topical will help with bruising. It will help the immediate soreness that you have on that first layer of skin. That will help you, cure better. It'll help you recover better with like your bruises. It'll get blood flow to that area. It'll help with your sore muscles. But I think with the homeostasis and where you want your body and brain to be, where it's working on the same level, and to get that system, your endocannabinoid system, working and functioning properly, you really need to have it both internally and externally. And there is a certain amount that your body will adapt to get into your system. Every day you're losing cannabinoids. It's just the way your system works. It's degrading the cannabinoids that are naturally produced into your system.
I'm glad you said that, because there's a big drive towards more knowledge about the influence of cannabinoids as not only a replacement for opioids, because those are addictive, versus cannabinoids are not. They can just help and support your body in more natural ways. But let me take the topical as an example to this. What are some strategies to get the topical into the system so that cannabinoid can really influence the neurological pathways in a very productive way? Because just rubbing it in, I don't think, is enough. Is it add some ways to get the cannabinoid into the system as a topical?
Correct. So the topical doesn't really permeate to the bloodstream, and that doesn't take the receptors to where they need to go. And what these receptors are, CBD is not a cure-all, and I don't like it when there's a lot of CBD companies out there like, oh, this will cure, and they have numerous health claims, and it's just ridiculous. There's no science behind that. And I just think that, really it's a simple thought that if you think, okay, topically I can only get through so much of my skin layers. Ingestively or sublingually, that will get to your blood system. And what CBD does is I like to look at it as kind of an aid rather than a replacement. And what that aid does is it helps your anandamide function properly. So those sensors can go off with pain, or it can decrease the pain. So it really is something that you need both internally and externally. So if you are using it on your knees as a rub, go ahead and take a sublingual at the end of the night, and it really will help you function the next day.
I know for me, I've been an active user of the CBD products for years, both as to test it, but also to not do any pain, the traditional medical script for pain, be it opioid or not. Even if it was just acetaminophen with codeine, I just don't. I'm not good at pill taking. I don't like that. So I've learned to use hot packs to enhance the uptake of a topical CBD on my legs, or to really massage it in, get the skin ready to take the CBD in, and the tinctures for immediate response at night help me a lot for sleeping, because my knees, when they get in those positions laying down, they tend to ache. And so
yes,
I know that helps. And you're absolutely right. I've heard so many stories from athletes who had the wrong information, that they thought they were being presented by snake oil salesmen. It's just because they don't deal with the facts. So when you're dealing with those WNBA players or those world-class soccer players, what are some of the things that they say to you that are myth-like, and you want to kind of debunk the myths? What are some things that have come up?
Well, first of all, for the pro athletes, testing is very top level for them. They need to know what they're putting in their body. Pro athletes are very conscious of everything they eat. Olympic athletes, they have to look at what WADA and USADA has approved.
Yep.
So that kind of kicks us off on the discussion of our line. We have a baseline, which is for anybody that needs to get tested, whether it be an athlete, a government worker, a construction worker that's working on a federal project, anybody that needs to get tested. Our products are 100% safe. Technically, you can't ever claim zero THC, just because there is like 0.00000, like smaller than a pinhead of THC that they just cannot extract. But regardless of that, no one will ever test hot if they took our product. And so that's the number one focus on the athletes, because they've been watching CBD and they've been wanting to take it. But it's also like, should I risk my career to take this? And how does it work? So those were the questions that they originally came up with. And it was really amazing, because we went around to every single soccer team in the NWSL, and we had what is called a focus group. And what we did is we asked them different questions, we gave them product, and then they gave us feedback. It was excellent for Mindy, and it was excellent for future athletes, for us to tell that story. The main issue that we found that they needed support with was sleep. So something that we didn't realize was such a huge part of recovery is sleep. And that's kind of like, I don't think enough athletes are really talking about that. When you play a game at 7 o'clock at night, either under the lights, or you are pumped up, you get home and you're just like, how am I going to sleep? And then next day, you're resting and recovering, but you've got to go to practice, or, maybe you do a light day, you do a little workout. The next day, you then missed out on that sleep, so it compacts. So the first night of game night, you probably didn't go to bed till 1 in the morning. Then you got up in your normal schedule. Well, you can't recover with all of that miss of sleep. So that was the first thing that we were like, you know what, we need to help them out and start something that will really aid them in sleep. So we came out with our gel caps, and we came out with our tinctures. And that really has been a game changer for a lot of athletes. They hold our tincture right by their nightstand, and they just take it a half hour before they really want to fall asleep, and it really helps them. We did our dosages in such high amounts that for athletes, because like I said, athletes, they just are really a well-oiled machine. And we thought, if an athlete is taking something, they usually have to take like 5 times what a regular person has to take. So we really made our dosages in line with an athlete. And those are just kind of some of the small things that Mindy has done to cater to athletes.
Well, and extend the conversation we're having now about your product as it relates to for anybody from a quality standpoint. You've got some really great points of interest in your philosophy and ideology, not just about your company, but about what that ideology does to the product. I mean, you've got a green footprint with this product. So give us some of the highlights of that.
Yeah, when we started Mindy, we thought, there's 5 things that we really want to focus on. One, we want to keep it very simple. We wanted to keep it all natural and organic. So everything that we put in there, we really keep safe and healthy for the athletes. We wanted to keep the environment in mind. We will go into the surfing arena, or waves, I should say, ocean. But yeah, we'll go into that, and we really care about the environment, so we wanted to do our packaging with less impact on the world. We also wanted to include diversity and inclusivity. That's really important to us as a team. So the way we hire, the way that we donate money, the way that we help people out, we want to center that. So we think that that is a really strong foundation. With some of the products, it's really interesting, like you were saying earlier with the topicals, that you can actually like heat it up and it helps permeate into the skin a little bit faster. It creates a little bit more sensitivity and uptake. So that's what we put into our products, like our massage oil. Is something incredible. It has like 6 different organic oils that totally come from the earth. Apricot oil, juniper berry oil, almond oil, I can go on. But what we did is we put a heating element in that oil. So when you start to massage it in, it starts to irritate your skin. It causes heat. Is when your skin gets a little bit irritated. So what that does is it opens up your pores. And that's something that I don't think that other people think about when they're creating CBD products, is to, let's use all of the products in the world that are healthy and organic and plant-based. So that's what we did, is all of our blends have different kind of plants, not just CBD. We have great herbs that have shown, promote tons of health wellness.
That's a great place for me to pause for a second and switch a little bit when we come back from a bit of a break, a little commercial indulgence here. We're going to have that next segment start off with a quote from Lou Holtz, which is our Mindset Monday. We always have a Mindset Monday moment every week, and I'll share that with you. And we'll talk a little bit about sacrifice and perseverance as it relates to you, your company, and CBD. But before I do that, let me remind everybody that Kendra was so gracious from Mindy to offer us a discount for some of her products, which ends today, by the way, kind of a one-day thing. It's 360 Mendy, M-E-N-D-I, 360 Mendy, and they're offering a 15% discount on their product line. And that you would go to their website, themendyco.com, to order and use the code when you order. As I say that, I want to remind everybody to do your best at bringing your best to everybody. As things start to open up, be still mindful of your social distancing so that you are not sharing what you might have, as well as others sharing with you in an untimely way. Basically, mask it up, would you? Socially distance. Be aware of what's going on around you. And as I say that, let me remind you that we have a quote that's fitting for today. That's the Lao-Tzu from The Art of War, Master of Self quote. I love this because we're talking about using products that help you be better, that helps you recover to be your best. And the quote it goes like this: knowing others is intelligence. Knowing yourself is true wisdom. Mastering others is strength. But mastering yourself is true power. So take advantage of what we're sharing with you today and create that true power for yourself. So, Kendra, as I come back to you, I want to ask you about that sleep thing. I've got football players that are so amped up before a contest, they don't get to sleep until 1, 2 o'clock in the morning the day before a game. And I had, before your product came out, I was constantly asking about the use of CBD to help them. Well, obviously I got resistance, it wasn't timely. Well, now it is. Would the use of the tinctures help a football player or any athlete for that matter prior to a contest to get that rest that they need? Because if they don't get the rest, they don't have the opportunity to recover.
Absolutely. And we thought about that. We came out with a day tincture and a night tincture. So the day tincture has a less milligram amount, which is nice. And what the day tincture is, it has a little bit of natural caffeine derived from yerba mate, the tea.
Yep.
And so we mixed that in there. We also mixed in some lemon balm, which is really a calming and an anxiety. It really helps with anxiety and calming. So that's why we were like, you know what, this is going to be the day tincture that helps people focus. So, I always say try out our products at practice, not on the biggest stage of your life. So, always try them out at practice and see how you feel on it before you really take it before a game day or something big. The day tincture was made for focusing, and it really is more about what we kind of call neural balance. It's kind of a word that Mindy kind of has made up because the FDA has said we cannot make any health claims. So we can't really put on our marketing products, so like it cures this or that. And so what we've decided to do is say, neural balance to us equals you are in the right space, you're ready, you're prepared to play, you're focused, you're tuning out the noise, and you can really get to what you want to do in that elite game. So, and then we created the night teacher because we were like, the athletes need to sleep. The moment that they're done with the game, they should hit a dropper of this. And what that's going to do, it's not going to instantly knock you out. It's just calm down, the chatter. It's going to start to help your body recover, and it's going to send signals to your brain that you're in recovery mode. So that's what that's going to do, and it's going to get you to that homeostasis balance again. As we're like, your anandamide is just like, it's really up high. It's like the runner's high, after a game.
Yep.
You're just pumped. And so what that really is going to do is bring that down and just a subtle way. And so that's what we suggest is like, as soon as you're in the locker room changing, you should have that tincture right in your bag and just take a little dropper, you stick it under your tongue, you hold it for about, if you can hold it for 2 minutes, that's the best. But a lot of times, 1 minute will do, and then you swallow.
Let me remind everybody that where Kendra comes from is we have some interesting intersections between the two of us. She's kind of a Mountain State girl. She went to college at the University of Wyoming. Don't hold that against her, okay? CSU, CU, don't hold that against her. Great agri-centered college. For I'm sure what she does now is beneficial. But at the same time, she makes her way to Portland, Oregon, where you're headquartered there, right? But you have some good foundational connections to Colorado.
Yes.
And so for any of you that take advantage of the 360 Mindy offer that Kendra has made, it's coming right out of Colorado. It's going to be shipped right out of Colorado to get to you. I'm very excited about what the future holds for my relationship with Mindy and Kendra and the group out there, but I also want to make sure that people know about your relationship with the WNBA. Now, besides soccer, you've got a pretty strong connection with the WNBA. Talk a little bit about that and how Sue Bird fits in there.
Yeah, so Sue Bird was our second athlete that we were able to sign. We signed her back in January, end of January, beginning of February. The WNBA has not lifted their ban quite yet on CBD, and it gets a little bit confusing between the leagues because Sue Bird is an Olympic athlete. If you ever have followed women's basketball, she is she's just a hero for all basketball players. The NBA,
UConn, Olympics, and the NBA. She's got it all.
She's played, and she's 40 years old and still playing, which is pretty impeccable.
She looks like she's 20.
Yeah, exactly. So she's got to be doing something right with her recovery, right?
Yeah.
So she really loves CBD, and that's when I actually formulated the Mindy stick was for Sue Bird because I saw that she was putting on oil all over her knees. Apparently, she went to the doctor. Her doctor said, "You have knees of an 80-year-old." I'm just letting you know that you run in those courts all your life. They are just like you're an 80-year-old. So she throws on CBD every single day on her knees, and she rubs it in. She was putting on these latex gloves. It was a mess. Oil was everywhere, and I heard this story and was like, okay, we need to get an easier application. So that's why the mini stick was made. It's really sleek. It's like in a deodorant tube. You can bring it in your gym bag. You can start throwing it on. You don't have to get your hands all messy. You can just rub it all over. It is now her favorite product, hands down. She puts it on every single day. It gives her relief instantly for about 2 to 3 hours. She loves the smell. It definitely has a menthol eucalyptus smell. But that's the healing part of it. Sometimes scents have a smell, and it's because they're helping you heal. So that's how our tie to the WNBA, and we have some more exciting news this summer that has to do with the WNBA. Just a little.
We'll wait for that when it comes. Give us a shot at being able to announce it with you.
Okay, great.
In pursuing that a little further, Kendra, you know as well as I do, with your relationship with Megan and Sue and even Rachel as your co-founder, you've got this hook into sports. And as it grows, and Sue's imprint on young girls and women, what do you envision the future looks like in regards to that middle schooler, that high schooler, that college player? And I know I'm not naive enough to not realize that they're probably using it already, that somebody bought it for them and they're trying it out. But where's the regulation and compliance going to take you, and where do you anticipate happening in the future?
Well, I think with all younger kids, CBD, I mean, they're young, and I don't recommend kids to be using it at all. I think that over 18/21, that's about the time that maybe they could start using it and really do the research behind it. And that's something that we're asking of consumers. We need you guys to meet us halfway and do the research behind it, because there is a lot of companies that aren't really honest about that. And so we really want to be the trusted brand. And I think with that, with young kids, at that age, we just want to promote good sportsmanship. We want to promote working hard, getting that work ethic. And for us, we think recovery will come at a later stage in their life when their body starts to deteriorate. It's really given the fact by like college that they are really sore, and their recovery is like at a higher need because they are they're playing at a different level. And so that's about the time that I think that CBD can really play in. We really want to push allowing every league, including the NC2A, to allow CBD. We think that CBD there should be no reason why it's not allowed in sports.
So what are you hearing from the trainers that are servicing and taking care of these elite athletes at the college and pro levels? Are you getting any kind of inquiries or feedback or both from them?
Absolutely. We sponsored 2 NWSL teams this year, the North Carolina Courage and national champs, and then the Utah Royals. We have sat down with the trainers and have done product demos. They're fascinated by it. They want to learn more. They want to soak up everything that they can. Ricky Keene, she was a trainer for the Oakland Raiders, and then also she currently is the trainer for the Orlando Pride, the NWSL soccer team. She loves the idea of CBD and using a much natural way to recover rather than NSAIDs and opioids. She really pushed for us, and she believed in us so much she invested in us in our first round. So there are tons of trainers that really love the topicals, and also like the tinctures. There's just, it's really, I think you're going to see a rise in sports that this is the best way for athletes to recover. And we're letting them have a voice and a choice in the way that they choose to recover.
Are you interested in people sharing with you their experiences with the Mindy product, or just maybe have CBD in general because they haven't found Mindy yet? And how would they do that? What's the best way for them to voice what they have to say?
Absolutely. We share, I think we share once a week people's stories. Our focus, we came in using pro athletes, but our focus is the everyday athlete. Like Rachel, our CEO, she was a pro soccer player for many years. She grew up playing soccer just as great as Megan. She had 4 ACL knee surgeries by the time she was like 25, I think. It was ridiculous. So she just, her body couldn't keep going after that dream. But she is not even any less than an athlete than her twin Megan. She's out there every single day. Either she's running, she's training, she's feeling good, she loves to play. I mean, it's just, once you're an athlete, you're always an athlete. It's not like you just turn that off.
Yeah.
So, that's who we're really going after, because we really think that that's who this will help the nation. And I think with that said, we want to hear their story. We want to lift them up. We want to know, how does CBD work for you? That doesn't just help Mindy. That helps the next customer or consumer realize, oh, okay, maybe this could fit like me, because they seem, kind of like my age group, my race, my body weight. So that could help me. So we love to tell the stories.
Well, I want to emphasize again to everybody that to do that, the first place to start is themindyco.com. Reach out to their website. They've got a portal in there to share some of those stories, or at least inquire about what they can do for you or direct you in some way. And if you have an interest in your community about how and where to find CBD products, I hope it will be Mindyco, but find a way to use the products in a safe way. And I want to make sure I point out again, nature's best. I mean, it may be a trite saying, but what you've heard here today is the representation of quality. I've gone all over the country and got inquiries from my athletes about what they're using. And I don't want to tell you some of the stories I've discovered, because it's not good. It's bad product. And people are jumping into this market very quickly, thinking they can take advantage of people. When you've got states that allow the production of marijuana, but it's not quality marijuana. It was marijuana grown for making rope. It's hemp. Now, that's not to say that it doesn't have CBD in it, but the quality of that versus some other grow in a more traditional marijuana-based growing methodology with no pesticides and is truly good soil conditions, that plant responds to all kinds of environmental conditions that influences directly the quality of the distillates that come out of it. So be aware, as Kendra said, learn about it, understand it, share with them, share with us. Share with me on my 360mindset.com website, and I will make sure the right people, and that may in fact be Kendra and others, gets your question and your comments. So that's my other, I commercialized again, I'm sorry.
No, I love it. I think that's super knowledgeable.
So as we continue on, let me make sure I point out to everybody that next week, we've got a great show coming up. Not that this one isn't, because it's a different topic, but next week we're going to talk with Ray Suarez and Rick Salinger. Rick Salinger is a local friend of mine, and Ray and Rick and I have a connection through the transit system at Chicago. We traveled on the metro system in Chicago going to and from downtown when they both were in town. Rick Salinger was with CBS, and at the time, Ray Suarez, I think, was on a local cable news network, but Ray is so worldly in his political views, and yet he, like many of us, have been caught up in the pandemic. So we're going to talk about career, community, and culture next week, and share our thoughts about that. So with that being said, let me continue with my great and wonderful guest, Kendra Friedman. Kendra, I am so excited and motivated to help you and Mindy with getting that information out and building a group of people perhaps that we can create some data and start writing some papers and sending out some messages about the quality. In particular, the trainers and the professionals that have seen the results of the product. What are some of the key things that you're getting as results from that feedback that people are saying, gosh, when I use CBD, this happens, or this doesn't happen probably more effectively. I don't get this. And I know that Sue's a good example because of Bernice and the history of Bernice, and Rachel is as well, and maybe even Megan. But talk about that everyday athlete and the feedback you're getting from them about what they're seeing and feeling as outcomes to their use of CBD products.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of the largest feedback that we've gotten was the help with the recovery with sleep.
Okay.
CBD really helps with your sleep. It really, I don't know, it just really starts to create that space.
Is it a more complete sleep, Kendra, or do they feel more refreshed the next morning?
Yes, so I think what it is that it's a more complete sleep, and a lot of people that have given us feedback, if you go on our site, you can see some reviews, but a lot of people have said, I used to wake up 2 or 3 times a night, and now when I do the tincture or the gel caps, I sleep completely through the night. That's a lot of different views that we've had, but that's what a lot of athletes have said. A lot of athletes have said it helps them wind down. Instead of taking a glass of wine or any kind of alcohol, or a lot of times these athletes unfortunately are prescribed melatonin. Well, melatonin is okay. It just over time your body starts depending on it. And then basically melatonin, and then they get prescribed Ambien. Those over the counter drugs are really for sure. So yeah, that's mainly the number one. Number 2 is sore muscles, any kind of like pressure on like limbs. I point to my shoulder. There's been a lot of people that have shoulder pain that they don't understand. They're like, I don't know if it's my rotor cuff. They really try to get in there, and they've really done this CBD constantly, and they've seen an improvement of the recovery time, where usually what it takes like 3 weeks, where that's just super tender, it's cut it down to a week and a half. So
I like that.
Yeah, those are some of those.
You gave you some specifics about that the time frame reduction, and let's make sure, from my perspective as a sports performance consultant on that mental performance coaching, anytime we can shorten down the time that you're thinking about the recovery, that's more time thinking about the execution of the skill. I've got your attention. You're fully engaged, which is always good, both from my perspective as well as that X's and O's coach who is asking me to make sure they're ready to be engaged at a high level. So I'm not, and I'm going to make sure I qualify this, I'm not making a claim that CBD increases and enhances your ability to focus, but it removes things that distracts you from focus. Like you're in control of the discomfort. You've managed the pain in an organic way. I've had athletes, to your point earlier, Kendra, about the use of opioids and more traditional pain medications. There's an after effect. There's a clouding, a mental clouding and fuzziness that comes with that. And I can see it the minute an athlete walks in the locker room or comes out on the field or the court, I can see whether there's a residual impact from that medication. And in days past, I would ask athletes that I knew were on an opioid or codeine-based product, I'd say, you need to get here early, like 45 minutes more early, so I can get you in a whirlpool bath, some kind of cold, just get you back. And with the use of CBDs, for those athletes that I'm recommending it to, they're ready to go. They're clear. Not in an enhanced way, just a normal, organic, this is who they are way, because all that other stuff has been moved to the side into a manageable space, if not totally gone. Are you feeling some of that feedback as well, to that kind of description?
Yes, absolutely. And anytime you can take something that's organic and plant-based versus synthetic, I think it just, your body processes it so much better. And it really can break it down a lot easier. As where, like, like what you're saying with the opioids, there is that fog and there is that delay. And I think with CBD, that's the game changer that, the athletes are trying to say is that, it really comes in and helps you recover at a different rate than what the others do.
Now, Kendra, you mentioned briefly about some of the things that you're anticipating could happen, would happen, whether it's government regulations or change of association guidelines and rules by a sports or a sports administrative association, be it the Olympics or a U.S. soccer or whatever it might be. So let's talk more specifically about the future of that. Where do you see the most dramatic change coming as you're anticipating things, and what do you want? What's on your wish list?
My wish list is that they would just remove the THC ban and CBD ban. It really needs to not be there. It's ridiculous that people can drink alcohol, people can take opioids, but they can't take THC or CBD.
So who's the they there, though? You mentioned they. I don't want to assume anything.
Yes, so there's different leagues. It's really interesting. WADA and USADA came out with a rule, and they said, we're going to lift the CBD ban, which that was incredible. So that's why Sue Bird, while she's playing the WNBA, she cannot take CBD because they have not lifted the ban. So that's the WNBA and the NBA have not lifted the ban. So when she's in season, she cannot take CBD. When she is an Olympic athlete, like right now, and she's training, well, actually not right now, she's starting to be in season for the WNBA in Florida. But after that, she'll be training for Tokyo. Tokyo 2021 hopefully will happen, who knows, but it's scheduled. And once she's done with the WNBA, she switches over. She can start taking the CBD, no problem. CBD has deemed available is basically without any other cannabinoids. So it only is saying CBD only, not CBN, CBG, all of these other cannabinoids that come in the plant. So that's why we kind of isolated that base. Now, the other leagues, they're starting to lift their bans. The NFL recently said they're not going to test or punish for THC. They didn't lift their ban and say, you could just do whatever. They still did not lift that ban. The NHL has always had looser regulations. They kind of just are like, we don't care, whatever you do is your thing. We're just not going to test for it. And the MLB recently made a really bold statement and took it off their league ban. It was very interesting because I was reading the rules and it said, we'll take THC off, but we are going to put cocaine on the ban. And I was like, what? Cocaine has not been on the ban, but yet THC has been.
Yeah.
So it was very interesting. And then they added some other opioids. But I think, you guys have read in the news how the opioid crisis has ripped through the MLB family. And it's been devastating. And I think that that's where the head office is, where Mindy has been really trying to push to educate and also be that trusted brand, is we are doing the work behind that. So we're gathering a medical team, so a Mindy science and medical team. We are getting doctors that actually know and have done the research. We are getting sports scientists. One of our main advisors is a sports scientist. With these leagues, we are going to go around to the head offices and we are going to have a panel and we're going to say, hey, we're going to teach you about CBD and THC because we think this is important to allow the players to have a choice. It's their body, it's their asset. And each league should look at it as athletes are an asset. And they should do everything in their power to protect that asset. So I think empowering athletes to have a choice of what they put in their body is really important. And that's something that not a lot of companies are really talking or doing that work for the athletes.
Kendra, do you think that with all of that that's been said, and I totally agree with you, if the federal government were to deregulate both the financial piece of cannabis as well as the distribution of cannabis across state lines, would that free up the NBA, the NFL, whoever's been hesitating? Or as you said, they added cocaine to the list because it wasn't there. I mean, for goodness sakes, it's almost like I'm not going to do anything unless so and so does it first. Would that help?
Right. Yes, and I think we've seen that progression. It's really interesting in the women's sports leagues versus the men's. The women's, besides the WNBA is owned by the NBA, but the other women's sports leagues, they just don't test for it. And it's been interesting that like men's leagues, have such a hard testing for it. But I think as we grow as a society, and yes, those barriers come down legally, federally, that will help. But I think what will really help is the science. And now we can have the science behind it, because before hemp was legal, or CBD, federally legal, we couldn't even have the research on it because they wouldn't allow it. It was illegal to do that research. So I think now with science coming into play, we are going to see these leagues going, wow, we should have had this lift a long time ago.
Now, before I forget it, I want to again thank you for being here today with me. It's been awesome. But I also want to remind people that in Kendra's background, she's got her hands dirty. I mean, literally put her hands in the dirt. And she's a grower. She's a farm kid. So I have to, she's a kindred spirit of mine. I love the smell of black dirt. It just there's something about it that just puts me back into my childhood. So I want to make sure that if you're trying to find a connection between you and Mindy besides CBD, and you're a farm kid, know that you've got a kindred spirit with Kendra Freeman. Now your title is you're chief cook and bottle washer as far as I'm concerned, but you're VP VP of product development, and is research in there too, or is it what's your full title?
No, I'm a co-founder, so when you're kind of wear every hat imaginable. So the titles don't even really fit what exactly I do, but I am president of business development and president of product development. But I do everything.
Yeah.
I do, and really for me, the job that I really like is formulating the products. And it's true, I have grown plants. I know the plant all the way down to what it does, how it works, how to grow it, what it does in different growth stages. There's over 100 great cannabinoids. CBD is just one that we've explored really deeply, but there are some beautiful cannabinoids like CBG you guys are going to start hearing about more often, and they're really doing deep research with that and cell development. So I think that it's going to be a really great, for everyone's health. And I think as we, get that science background, Rachel does more of the research and science, which she's great. She would love to be on the show. But she does more of the research and science because she has that master's in science in health physiology, and she brings it to the active human. And her and Don Moxley, who also is our sports scientist, we all three kind of work together very well and talk about, I can talk about the plant molecular structure and how that works. And then Rachel can tell you exactly how it works in your body. And Dawn can tell you exactly how it works in your games, in your exercise. So it's a great combo of a team.
And one I'm going to point out to my audience, Kendra, is you just described the full circle, the circle of life, basically. And I mean that in a very specific way, because it's plants, seed to sale, as they say in the marijuana business. You are literally going from seed to not just the sale, but the actual application and the systemic processing of the benefits that CBD or CBG or any other derivatives of the cannabinoids that are coming in the future. And I'm looking forward to talking more about that science, not just with you, but with your colleagues. And I'm gonna recommend and say this out loud to my audience today that I'm producing a lot of different things on the virtual networks that are creating these days. And I'm going to suggest that in the future, we're going to have a webinar, a panel discussion for people to tune in and listen to you and your sports people and Rachel and whoever else we can put into the panel in the audience to talk about and share what's going on and why it should be getting bigger and more important. Because when you start talking about cutting up the cannabinoids into the different versions that are there, and the science begins to substantiate the cell morphology and the cell influences to that morphology, we begin to get some insights that are going to be very powerful to growth and health and dealing with the way the world and the universe is changing around us, that many of us regretfully don't have a clue, but need to know, so that we're not being given therapies that are as detrimental as they are beneficial. Have you watched any of those shows about the medication? The side effects are worse than the medication itself. So I digress. I'm sorry. But we're getting to the end of the show, Kendra, and I want to ask you the final question. What is the one takeaway that you want people to have when they start using the Mendi products and the CBD benefits that they derive?
Yeah, I think the one takeaway is really doing your research as a consumer, finding out who that trusted brand is and what resonates with you with that company. I think two, really giving CBD a try. There's a lot of people that take it one time and they're like, it didn't work. I'm never doing it again. That just didn't work for me. CBD takes about 2 weeks for your system to really see any effects. Just because you've got to get it into your system so much. So I think that that's a great takeaway. I think with athletes to really focus on, there's so much around recovery and there's so much around headspace that we're not even really talking about with athletes. And so I think that that's where you're going to see CBD just elevate your game. And that's kind of the big takeaway is like, it will not only elevate your game, I think it'll elevate your quality of life. And I think that it will improve and you do better things. So that's kind of the big takeaways for me.
Well, we've got a couple minutes left, and I'm not going to ask you any specific questions yet to finish the show, Kendra, but I'm going to ask you to participate as you see fit in what I'm about to say. And that is about what we do here at 360 Performance every Friday, is bring people like Kendra to the forefront to share messages about influencing human performance and being a start in that thought process, that mindset that you start with every morning when you start your day, and that it's removing the negatives. And to remove the negatives, like we're talking about today, the negative is pain and discomfort. And a cannabinoid can help do that, so that you remove the clouds that will remain if you don't manage that pain and discomfort. But to put traditional medicine to that, you have a whole nother impact of cloud and fog that results as a use of those opioids. So I want to make sure that people understand that we're not just bringing this story of Kendra and Mendi Co. We're bringing it to a full circle of understanding of how do you get better. How do you get better by staying in control of what's good for you with good, solid information that is substantiated by the science, as it can be, but also by experience. You've got experienced people like Sue Bird, Megan Rapinoe, and her sister Rachel. By the way, the difference between the two of them is hair color. You want to know who's who? Just saying, just my own personal opinion. But also to let everybody know that we try to end every day in a smile, so that we understand that you got to have fun. As one of my clients who's now retired, Curtis Granderson, would put in the brim of his hat every game is have fun, to remind himself that don't take it too seriously. I'm out here having fun with a game I love, and he arrived at the highest levels. But I share that with you, Kendra, as well, and ask you to consider talking to me again. Let's do this again. If you've got an announcement, call me up. Let's get it on the show and share it with people. And I'm serious. I'm going to come back to you with a plan to do a webinar that features alternative methods to being your best by understanding the science of cannabinoids.
Great. We also will be featured, our sports CBD panel will be featured on the Northern Colorado Hemp We were supposed to be there in March for the NoCo Hip, not festival, conference. And we were going to have a pro athlete, Crystal Dunn from the national team.
Yeah.
And then Rachel, myself, and Don Moxley. So that is supposed to be scheduled for August, and I think it will be online. But we would love to, me, Don, and Rachel could totally do a CBD panel for you.
Awesome.
So hopefully we do that.
Plan on having conversations to get that in the works and the timing of that as well. I'm running a little bit late, so I'm going to say see ya and have a great day today.
Bye. Thank you.
You bet.